Hi, I'm Dave McKay, President of the New York Central System Historical Society, and I'd like to welcome you to our second modeling video on YouTube. We have a lot of very dedicated folks who've worked very hard and diligently to show you what they've been doing for us, and they will follow my introduction. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you again in more of these videos to come. Enjoy. Have a great time.
Hello, I'm Seth Lakin, New York Central System Historical Society's modeling chairman. In the last video, I showed you a model of a New York Central NW2 with a split window that I was working on. In this video, I'll show you how I did it. This NW2 has a dual or a split window on the fireman's side of the cab. This modification was done when a third crew member was moved into the cab of the switcher. Per union agreements, each person in the cab needed their own window, making the modification necessary. There are at least 26 NW2s, 17 SW7s, 8 SW9s, and 1 SW8 that received this modification. I started with an Athearn SW7, replaced the cab with a Cannon & Company thin wall switcher cab kit, and in that kit they give you a couple extra sides. Two of them have little access hatches, you can see there, and then two of them are blank sides with no access hatches. You want to use those blank sides unless you're modeling a Penn Central or Conrail rebuilt switcher, which do have those access hatches. Well, the good case is they give you two extra sides to practice, or with my case, one to fix up your mistakes. So take my dial calipers here, metal ones, you can use them for scribing, set it to 100 thousandths, and you got a little lip here on the inside. Want to take my caliper and scribe like so, make a little line, and on the other side scribe and make a little line. Then using a modeling square, butt it up against the bottom lip here, line it up to that line that I just created using an X-Acto knife. A couple light passes, 1, 2, a couple more, and cut through. And on the other side, same thing. Make sure your line cut is square. Then, once we made those cuts, come through here and right along the bottom, cut out that piece. And then there's a little lip that you're following. Okay, there goes that one. There's a little lip right in there that I want to cut out or leave on. Go to the other side. And I'm slicing off that lip. Nice, thin, light cuts we'll get through eventually. Okay. Now we have our cab opening. Oh. Little mill file. Sand that smooth now. And on the back side, or on the inside, now it's smooth there too. What we want to do now is take some 30 by 156 styrene. Cut two pieces, about an inch long on the first one and about a ½ inch on the second one. Where'd that first piece go? Oh well. Good thing with styrene, it's cheap. Make another cut, another piece. Alright, the first one now, with a little plastic glue, we're going to layer these two. So there's the first one and the second one. The second one, the longer one's going to be the inside brace, and the shorter one is going to be the window post itself. And make your cut nice and square, like I did not. Alright, that should be good. little glue on the inside there. Line the two pieces up. Center it like so. That looks halfway decent. Now once this dries, I'm going to come through and sand the joint smooth and then line it up square with the top of the window sides. There goes the first one, and cut through the second one. And a little square up. And that, then build the kit as the cab kit as you would, and that's how you have a split window switcher. A little detail you can add is a Details Associates. Where did they go? Where did they go? Here they are. 2303 cab armrests. Use the short one, the 24-inch. Mount them right under the window like that, and you have your split window your split window switcher.
Hi, my name is Al Warner. I'm a member of the New York Central Society. Duran Duran asked me to say a few words about what's been going on with the present coronavirus problem. I've got a whole bunch of things going on, not necessarily at the same time, but whatever I feel like I work on. First thing, you might remember this from the Modelers Society. This is what's called a wheel car. It was on the cover of one of the color books, and it's basically a Walthers refrigerator car that's been totally stripped of everything and then rebuilt with many changes into this wheel car. They were built in the mid-40s as an emergency measure to supply parts for the many assembly plants in Michigan and Ohio. Toughest part was building these straps on the end and putting little nut and bolt castings in there, and there's only over 100 of these things. It was quite a chore, but we got through it okay. The next one was the section house, and this came about when I stumbled into some plans for a New York Central section house that was included in one of the many terrific CDs that the Society puts out, and I made up two of them, and I gave them both to Rich Stoving as a thank you for some terrific work he didn't have to do for me, but he did, and it was very, very nice of him to do it. So I made these two little section houses, and it didn't take long. They're all out of sheet styrene with Tichy fittings. I can talk about it now, but I cheated. I'll be very candid. That's supposed to be board and batten siding, but the people that sell the plastic are closed down due to the virus, so I used just plain old vertical siding instead. It worked out pretty good. The interesting thing about it is the color. The New York Central Society sells some terrific paints. They are really, really wonderful paints. They looked too pale to me, maybe because they were lines east. So I put a few drops of green in there, and it just fits to a T. It looks terrific. If you buy New York Central paints, they're not going to stay nice and runny. So I stumbled into this device, a little paint shaker I bought on Micromark, and it works like crazy. Just absolutely terrific. Next little project, which I'm hardly about halfway through, is the caboose that the Society sells, laser kit by American Model Builders. I go back a few years. I just turned 80. I've built kits from Silver Streak, Varney, Roundhouse, you name it, Globe. I have built about everything that can be built as far as kits are concerned. This is hands down the greatest model railroad kit ever made that I've assembled. These are absolutely fantastic. If you're a New York Central modeler, buy some of these. They are absolutely terrific. They are so terrific. I have 3 of them of the 19,000 series, plus one of the long cabooses in the 732 series. And as a different thing, I'm going to do a bay window caboose, lot 782 by Right Track. It's a very nice kit as well. These are just super kits. You couldn't do any better than to buy these. The last thing is the station that got me into this in the first place. The Lakeshore and Michigan Southern had basically a standardized design, and they simply changed the standard dimensions for the floor plan involved. I bought 2 of these Lines West stations because they were so accurate and so beautiful to work with. It is not a small structure. The backside will probably not have anything on it. It'll be a plain gray wall because it's going to go right against the wall of the train room. There will be a second story area in here and in here. I've made 3 trips to Elkhart and did dimensional work, but you never do enough measuring, I found out. This purchasing of the kit parts allowed me to use the kit parts as a template. Everything gets traced onto plastic, 40,000 plastic, and then it works out just beautiful. Every bit of this is scratch built, except for the brick paper, which comes from Micromark. I must be their best customer. This now, by the way, is a senior citizen center for Elkhart in this area. This is what was the ticket bay, which is now a waiting room. As a kid, I used to take the train from Sturgis, Michigan, where I lived, down to Elkhart, and I'd spend the afternoon there. They had a magazine stand, they had a lunch counter, and it was absolute heaven for a young kid. The last thing is 12 inches to the foot scale. I found some guys, or they found me, who belonged to the Pittsburgh, Shawmut, and Northern Railroad, which ran from mid-New York State almost to Pittsburgh and all coal. It went belly up in 1947, unfortunately, but they do have a historical society. They have some rolling stock, including a locomotive, at these fairgrounds, county fairgrounds in Angelica, New York. The catch is they have this equipment undercover at Angelica, and it has shown some deterioration. So I agreed to rebuild the steps on a private car called the Clara, number 99, and I have the steps out in my woodworking shop, and maybe next week, if all goes well, I'll go over and install the new steps on the car. So I have yet to build the prototype, and here's going to be my chance. I'm really looking forward to it. Next winter we'll be starting on my model railroad, which the bench work is up. It's 13 feet wide and 48 feet long, and it will cover Elkhart around the station area, the freight house, B Tower, a bunch of stuff, but it will be very close to what Elkhart looked like when I was a kid, including this critter right here. I'm really looking forward to it. Somebody would say 80 is too old to start on model train layout, to which I say 80 is just young if you want to be young. So that's what I'm working on. It's been a pleasure to chat, and everybody stay safe, everybody stay healthy, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rob Bennett. This segment will cover how I scratch built in HO scale the Lake Shore and Michigan Southern Freight House located in the town of Northeast Pennsylvania. My HO scale layout does not model any specific New York Central line or location. It's basically a proto-freelanced layout, very loosely covering a joint New York Central Pennsylvania Railroad line in the northwest corner of Pennsylvania. This segment you're going to see is a much condensed and edited version of a longer, more detailed video. If you'd like to view the entire build video, as well as other solid block related videos, I'd like to direct you to my YouTube channel. search YouTube for the Bennett Railroad. The channel name is actually Stephen Bennett. It's a long story. But you will recognize the channel by the Norfolk Southern Veterans Unit in the channel header. Once on the channel, please go to the playlists. Here, select the Scratch Build Series playlist. In the playlist, look for videos number 3, number 5, and number 6. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoy this segment. This is a freight house that was on the Lake Shore in Michigan Southern. It's still extant today, in February of 2019. It's this freight house. It's over in the town of Northeast Pennsylvania at the, I think it's the Lake Shore Museum over there. So, again, it's a block type scenario that I used. This article, which is out of How to Build Realistic Layouts, that a friend of mine let me copy, kind of goes through the building and a little bit of the history of it and some photographs of it. And I did go out with Bill and I took many, many more detailed photographs of the building. And I'll just show these briefly. Again, kind of what you do if you want to model something like this, decide how big you want to make it. Because if you'll see my scribblings on here, I had to determine, the pitch of the roof and really how big I wanted to make it. I actually decided to scale it to about 75% of the original size because it would have just been too large for where I wanted it. So going through and converting the N scale measurements to actual, decimal measurements, I went through and, scribbled some notes. And then here's where I decided to how I was going to make it. And this is nice. It gives you an idea what the interior looks like. I'm actually going to have an interior here up at this end, not so much the freight station end, but something up here. So this is the solid block. For this, again, you'll notice it's actually has a cutout. And this is where I'm going to put the interior for the office. Probably make something on a thin sheet of cardboard, slide it in. I may even add a light to the top here, run it back, drill a hole so I can actually light the interior. So you can do that with solid block buildings. It takes a little bit of forethought how you're going to do it. I used Northeast scale lumber, board and batten siding. I did actually photograph, measure, and send off to a contact I have on Shapeways the details of the windows, and these are actually custom windows from Shapeways that match a lot closer the actual windows in the building. I could not find anything from Tichy or Grant that was even close to it. So I got the door, the windows, the freight house doors, everything glued on. The nice thing about this block technique is it tends to allow you to build them faster. Now, it will slow me down because of what I'm doing here with this, with the interior, determining all that. The roof's a little bit more involved with the different pitches and everything, so I'm going to come up with the roof, and it'll probably take me, just going to kind of show, now that I kind of showed you the thought process, the prototype, how I'm kind of modifying things slightly. I'm going to incorporate this base, the interior, and then we'll show it as we go through assembly. So this is what I'm going to do for the interior of the office. I have just a sheet of cardboard that I used to use when I was doing photography. Just want to give the impression that it's got an interior and some folks there hanging out, one guy talking to the other dude sitting back. I added, this is going to be the one wall. I put a Pensy calendar, although it's a New York Central prototype building, so that's going to probably cause, that's like, matter, antimatter getting together, so I don't know, there might be some type of time-altering explosion. But here we are, a little in progress. The freight house, I got all the Northeast board and batten installed. You know, the window is in. I have a coat of paint on it. So what I came up with for the main color is, this Vallejo model color, 70.885 pastel green. That's the kind of the greenish, light greenish, grayish type color there. For the darker gray, I went with, again, model color 70.886 green gray. I also need to come up with something for eave brackets, because they're pretty pronounced on the prototype. I did buy some of these from Scale Structures Limited. They're large eave bracket number 2285. You can see I added the basement has been added with some Monster Model Works. I forget what they call it, foundation starter or something like that. Those are on. They are, not sure how well they show up. They're northeastern. The main shingles are northeastern scale lumber. They're gray slate. I do have 2 downspouts ready to go. These are made out of Scale Structures Limited, a pipe set. Light on it. I do have the door in for the basement. This is the actual stair assembly. So that's going to be and then this will all be covered, obviously, with scenery. This, if I calculate everything right, it looks like it will sit a little bit proud. This is the little platform for the front. Alright, so that's going to go on the back side. And that's just made out of scribe siding, actually. But alright, so we'll come back as we get things weathered up and see how it looks.
Hello, my name is Frank Bongiovanni. I'm a member of the Modeling Committee. For this segment, I want to show you some tips and techniques for building wooden structures, be they old-fashioned wood kits, laser kits, or even some scratch building. This is my neat, clean, well-organized, and well-lit kit work area. For my demonstration piece, I'm going to assemble this Alexander New York Central freight station. It's currently out of production, but it's still available at train shows and, of course, on eBay. This station is patterned after a New York Central station in Caledonia, Michigan. One thing I like to do before I even get started working on the kit is take the instructions and read them and familiarize myself with them, especially if they include plans. Now, I know this is tough for you guys, but I suggest that you read the instructions. I didn't say you have to follow them, but you should read them because sometimes the suggested order of assembly has reasons behind it. Another thing I have found useful is before you start on the kit, once you have separated all the larger wooden pieces from their carriers, place them on a photocopier and make a copy of the large pieces. This way, if you break something or need to repair something or even modify something, you have easy templates for cutting out pieces from spare wood. One thing you may notice with some of these older wooden kits is that the cutting is not as precise as we become used to with laser kits. So sometimes it's necessary to dress up the ends and the mating surfaces of some of the pieces to get a nice close fit. This can be done with a sanding stick or, even cheaper, with an emery board that you can get at your local drugstore or beauty shop. Another thing I like to do is after I've painted the surface, I roll over it with a cotton swab. This seems to provide a nice, dull, wood-like texture over the paint, and also takes away any excess paint so that the scribing or the board and batten surface of the wood shows very nicely. Just roll, roll, roll until the surface is comparatively uniform. I think this has a good, realistic looking result. Over the years, Alexander scale models did two slightly different versions of this kit. The later version replaced the wooden freight doors with cast metal freight doors. This is a lot easier to assemble, but also means you have to spend a little bit of time filing off the flashings and the imperfections on the sides and back. When fitting trim pieces around door openings, sometimes the best approach is to cut the trim piece just a shade oversize and then sand it down to fit the door perfectly. With some of the kits, especially some of the earlier ones before laser cutting, you have to double check to make sure that windows and doors fit in the holes in the walls. It is wise to double check that and adjust the holes if necessary before assembly. Also, to avoid cracks in the wood when sanding, it sometimes pays to clamp the wall in a machinist vise or something similar before doing the actual adjusting of the opening. With an asymmetrical structure like this, it is wise to continuously consult the instructions and the drawings and perhaps mark the underside with the letters designating the sides and an arrow designating which side the track will be on. Using both the diagrams and the pictures is very helpful for this. If you ever need to hold things in a fixed position but don't want to add permanent bracing, either in accordance with the plans or your own, you can always add temporary bracing so you can still have access and it can later be removed for the formal bracing and or interior detailing. The earlier version of this kit has a sheet of sandpaper that Alexander says you should cut into strips. The later version, which this happens to be, which is with the precast windows and the precast freight doors, the strips for the roofing are pre-cut. For the dock, Alexander provides individual planks that can be applied one at a time. This can be fun, but it can also be kind of tedious. Another way of approaching it is to go ahead and cut 1/8 inch scribed siding to the appropriate length and apply it that way. Here I'm checking the roof for placement and fit, even though neither the roof nor the building are done. I usually like to make my roof removable if at all possible, even if I'm not going to detail the interior. It enables me to check the bracing and also do any repairs on the building much more easily if I can just pop the roof off. I have found that it's good for me to spend a little extra time on the roof, partially to make sure that it fits properly, even though I make them removable, but also because you want it to look good, because if you think about it, most of the times when you're looking at a structure on a layout, you're looking at it from above, and the most obvious thing you're going to see is the roof. Another tool you can use, and I got this from our friend Jim Six, is to take digital pictures of the model when you're getting close to being finished with it. Then take those digital images, blow them up on your computer, and then you can see clearly flaws that aren't available to the naked eye. These pictures are not for publication or sharing with your friends once you're done. And here is the model almost complete. It can still use some detailing, but some of that will have to wait until it's actually put on the layout and is area specific. A lot of people have helped with this project, too many to thank, but I specifically want to mention Tom Stage, an incredible modeler who did this same structure a few years ago. It's beautifully painted and detailed, including the interior. It's available on the New York Central Historical Society's webpage.
Greetings from the Sonoran Desert. I'm Larry Faulkner from the New York Central System Historical Society's Modeling Committee. This is part 2 of the pandemic video that we started back in the spring, and I'm just going to show you what we've done, projects here, mostly just updating what we started on the first one. It's so hot out here, we did the first ones outside. It's too hot in the desert. We won't be doing that today, so we're just going to show you and update what we've done to some of these towers and the coal chute, the Harmon coal chute, which have been, Manuel and I have been working on that project since 2013. So we'll get ready to go out in the garage and we'll do some segments and update what we've been doing. Thank you and hope everybody stays safe. Thanks. Okay guys, here's our first one here of our projects we've been doing here during some of this COVID stuff. This is the Harmon coal chute. Manuel and I and Victor Han have been working on this since the 2013 convention in Poughkeepsie. Got most of this, the construction, basic construction is done. We've done a lot of different things with this. This is mostly built from styrene, and Manuel had did the drawings based just on photos, and we tried to guesstimate the best we could and come extremely close. It's just now scale drawings that surfaced. Figures that always happens, right? As soon as you get something built, then the real drawings show up. So we did some 3D printing. I'm going to try and zoom in a little bit here. We did the actual gates for each chute was 3D printed. And then we did etched brass, a whole sheet of etched brass. We did the actual chutes, although I wind up, before we did that, Manuel had the drawings, and I used tin and cut mine from the sheet tin and folded it on the fold lines, and they come out pretty darn good. Have turnbuckles on here. This has been sitting out in the garage for a long time, so it's getting battle scars and it's too hot. I'm out here in Arizona, it's 115 degrees. I'm in the garage sweating right now, so I'm just trying to do this, show you what we've been working on, and get ready to start coloring this, do some weathering. All these, you can see the actual handles and the rotting going from the handle to the chute on the gates. Those were all bent and done up from our brass etched sheet. So these are, I had painted them silver, but I need to go ahead and color those up better and get some of that going. And I still have work. I got to redo the roof. The roof was, we determined that it was corrugated iron sheet, and I did mine long time ago with standing seam metal roof, so that's I need to redo that. And then the only other bits I got left as far as construction goes is to finish up on the sand house. And I apologize for some of the other stuff in the background there, but this thing is so long, it's over 4 feet long, and we haven't even done the ramp yet. Victor has done his is all complete, his is shortened. This is to full scale. There's 30 chutes here, 15 on each side. And the conduits are there for the lighting above. I have lights inside. They used surface mounted LEDs. And this will be lit up nice and it'll look really good. I get it finished up and weathered, and a model 1952-53. So you can see bits and pieces here where it wasn't in the best of shape. Some of the boards were getting beat up. And it was on its last legs. Steam left in August of 1953. So this is going to be not in the most pristine shape, but it's coming along, and then we'll do the ramp next, and then that'll be also probably a good 4 feet long. So that concludes this segment for the Harmon coal chute, and I'll show you some of the other stuff we've been doing and working on lately. Okay, guys, here is OW Tower that was down in Tarrytown, New York. This is our second version of this. The first one we did, we presented at the Marlboro Convention a couple of years back, and then we presented it to John Springer, whose dad worked in these towers, so this one particular, and John helped us with a lot of photos and got us going right on this. And this one is just lacking lighting and interior work, and also have the battery house here. They got real glass inside there. I don't know if you can really see the reflection of it or not. Let's see if I try and catch a little bit of that. Probably not, because the garage is shaded, but I don't want to be out in the sun because I don't want to melt everything out here. But this is just about done. Got some weathering, a little bit of touch up to do. Interior lighting. And then the interior, then this will be done, and we've also done PF Tower and CR Tower. And on the upper landing, you'll also notice a screen door. It come out pretty good. I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit on that. That used bits and pieces of our laser cut door pieces that are 2 or 3 layers thick. You know, and layers, easier to paint, and this really made this come out nice for a screen door, which most of the towers had. So that takes care of this segment, and we'll try something next here. Okay, during the last segment that we did for the pandemic modeling, we started showing some of these circuit breaker houses that are unique to the electric division. They contain the circuits in there, so if there was a derailment or if track workers or section gangs had to work on areas, they could cut portions of the tracks out and work on those without getting electrocuted. And the last segment actually had some of these taped up, getting ready to paint the basic color or painting the concrete work. Well, I've kind of stalled a little bit. We're waiting for some laser cut doors and windows, and you can see circuit breaker house number 26 on the right. That was the big one. That was the only 6-window one. That was right there at Harmon between the shops and eastbound platforms at Harmon. That one's just about done, ready to get weathered, ready for the doors and windows. Then we have in the middle, we have number 25, which was down by CR Tower and the Croton River Bridge. And then 27 is on the left. But still have to apply the mortar to that. I did up on the upper end. You can see up along the roof I did, but I just got to do on the main section. I guess I'll do that soon. And that one was up by CD Tower up towards the Brook Avenue crossing up in Croton. That was the very last one along the main line up there, though there was one more in the Croton East Yards, number 28, but I don't think I'll model that one. So there is, these are cast resin that Manuela did. He had a master 3D printed, and then he made the mold boxes from RTV and then cast these, and they come out like really, really well. We've done an article for these years ago, and our articles built it from scratch. And now these will be the replacements, these beautiful resin castings. Still working on, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here on number 26 here. I started coloring, doing a little bit of individual brick coloring on the ends. You can probably see just a little bit there. I'm still working on that. Then it'll be ready, like I said, to work on the coloring a little more and then weather it, doors and windows, and then this one will be done, and the other ones are in progress. So there's where we are with the circuit breaker houses that were featured in part 1. I've got one more quick segment to show you. I've been working on some 3D, or excuse me, some third rail ties. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, last segment, guys. This is one of the things I've been doing here during some spare time, is working on making third rail ties, which were every 6 or 7 ties spaced out on the main line. Some of them near switches. There was a couple close together to support the end of it. And I used some micro-engineering ties. I stripped some flex track, measured it out, cut it right at the fish plate, and then measured out, did an extension from other spare middle sections of ties, cut those, glued them, used a spacer to drill the hole for the for the third rail hanger. And you can see that this one here's got a hanger already on it. These are ready to install, just slide right underneath. Still got the fish plates on there from the micro engineering. And then we also have tons, I mean, just did a whole bunch of third rail hangers. These were, just like I said, every 7th tie, so there's tons. I got a whole bit of these already been painted, some of them slightly weathered. And then what we also did was the third rail feeders that actually fed the power coming up to the third rail. We had a bunch of these done. Manuel had these, did a little bit of trial and error, but had these 3D printed, but they're like a rubbery material. So they have, I should have got some tweezers, to actually have the wires and cables on them. So these just need to be weathered up a little bit. These are exactly the way they were when they come off the sprue. And they'll just drill a hole and these wires will go right up against the third rail, and that'll power those up quite nicely. And that is it from this end. So I hope you guys have got a bunch of modeling done and during the pandemic, and everybody stayed home and stayed safe, which is important. And you all have a great day, and I thank you.
Report.